Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Rockwell Process Consulting. And today I wanted to review a case study around a hazardous waste recycling facility here on the West Coast. And this one involves more around the labor supply. So this particular client, this was pre-COVID. So there wasn't a labor supply issue at that point, but it hit on labor and overtime. They were spending a tremendous amount of money on overtime to the tune of they were up around 50% overtime. So everybody in this facility on the hourly side, at least, was working about 60 hours a week instead of working, a normal 40. And that was the average. So there were people working a little bit less. There was some people working a lot more than that. So I was brought in to help out with that situation, and we got it down to 0% overtime within 3 months. And how we did that was understanding the whole system, the whole company, and how all the departments were working together. There was 12 different individual production lines here, all doing different things. They were bringing in processes and materials from all different types of places. And so we got into just some of the basic operations of the system and found out that some of the production lines were breaking down quite often. Some of them, since it's a hazardous waste facility, they were spending a lot of time with cleanup to make sure that they were in compliance. And a lot of that mess that was happening was coming around because of some of their processes and procedures, as well as the condition of the equipment. So in that respect, first, as an example, we worked with the maintenance team and the engineering group there to do some maintenance on some of the equipment to reduce the amount of spillage and messes that would happen, to completely free up, several hours a week of those particular operators. So they didn't have to spend all that time doing cleanup. They were able to get their job done in a much faster manner. So their overtime went down. There was some other groups where there was a process that would happen, and they didn't do a whole lot of lab work ahead of time to figure out what the best approach would be and the best treatment strategies. So they would spend a lot of time treating these batches that they would make, that would take a really long time. It would take a lot of extra chemicals, and a lot of brain power and a lot of people to try to put everybody's head together to figure out how to treat these particular batches. And we went into there and helped them to understand how to do jar testing in the lab, to do that testing more efficiently, to figure out, okay, let's make these batches a lot less complicated, make them way more straightforward. And we showed them how they were actually, by trying to throw a little bit of this and a little bit of that to get rid of it all, to actually simplify those and not throw the last little bits in that were actually causing tremendous amount of problems, and causing those batches to take extended amounts of time that would then go to the treatment plant, which would cascade the problem to there as well. And then that would end up bottlenecking the entire facility. And sometimes they would have to actually shut down the plant or production lines so that they could actually process what was happening in waste treatment, so that they could free that up to get the plant flowing again. There was also a lot of unapproved overtime happening. People were just working because no one was checking. There was work to be done, but it wasn't priority, or they were actually making way more production than they needed. So they would just kind of bounce around from place to place, working all this overtime, making all this extra production, doing these non-priority things that would just rack up the overtime bills. And so that was what we were tasked with, was to reduce the overtime. And they had been trying to do that for years, but there was no one really there from a technical standpoint to really understand the intricate details of the process. And no one really had the time at the facility to dig into it because everyone was kind of running ragged. And that spilled over into the sales and marketing teams, the customer service, as well as the shipping or the trucking department as well. They made products for water treatment. This would go out to all the municipalities in the area. And as you can imagine, this is a really critical component for making clean drinking water. You can't run out. So these particular production lines were running, full tilt to make all the chemicals to treat the drinking water in the local area. And that was another area that we helped with. Once we started digging in and looking into the company as a whole, we found that some of the production issues that were happening because of technical issues and engineering issues were causing customer service to have to call all of their customers to find out who needed orders, who could wait, how they could shuffle around the production and product that they did have to the most urgent clients and customers. But that required tremendous amounts of their time to do all that shuffling. Then that would in turn create a lot of pain for the trucking department, who would have to reschedule everyone. I learned about trucking schedules and how drivers are allowed to work and drive certain amounts before they have to take breaks. So just understanding how all of those changes in production had a major impact on the customer service side of things, and then in turn onto the shipping trucking department as well. And then because of all those changes happening quite often, that would end up creating chaos in the accounts payable, accounts billable department, where they were constantly making changes to the bills that they were sending out, payments they were getting. And so some of these very small tweaks that we were able to make in the production side of things to make their processes smoother and more efficient cascaded through the entire company to make everyone's job easier and cut down the time needed. So, instead of adding another 10% to their labor pool and hiring all these people, we were able to make their processes more efficient and save them time, money, and resources in the process. So that translates now into, if you've got open positions available that you need to hire for, you can actually take the people that you do have, make their processes and systems more efficient so that they can get their job done quicker and easier. And you may be able to free up some of their time or several people's times in certain departments to free them up to then redeploy them into these open positions that you have available and reduce the demand on hiring for what you need. So you'd be able to reduce the strain on your labor supply just by making your processes and systems more efficient with what you're currently doing. So if that's something that resonates with you, feel free to reach out. If you are struggling with labor supply, if you're also struggling with supply chain or inflation impacts to your business, we can apply these same principles of efficiency and to hit cost reduction without negatively impacting your business. We can get the same amount of work, same amount of product and service done in less time with less money, less resources. So if that's something that rings a bell for you and you could use help in those areas, feel free to reach out and we'd be happy to help.